Nearly every kitchen on Earth has one, sitting quietly on a counter, reheating leftovers in under 2 minutes without anyone thinking twice about how strange that actually is. It hums, it beeps, and it hands you a hot meal without any flame, any stovetop, or any real understanding of what just happened inside that little box. But nobody set out to invent the microwave oven at all, and no team of chefs or kitchen designers had anything to do with it. It was discovered entirely by accident inside a wartime defense lab when a chocolate bar melted in the wrong man's pocket at exactly the right moment. This is the history of the microwave. The man behind that accident was Percy Spencer, and his path to that laboratory was genuinely remarkable on its own, long before any chocolate ever melted. Born in Maine in 1894, Spencer lost his father before he turned 2 years old. His mother eventually left as well, leaving him to be raised instead by an aunt and uncle. In genuinely difficult circumstances, he dropped out of school at just 12 years old to help support the family, and he never received any formal education beyond that single point. Rather than give up on learning entirely, Spencer taught himself electrical engineering from library textbooks, often studying late into the night while standing watch during his years of service in the Navy. I just got hold of a lot of textbooks and taught myself while I was standing watch at night. He later recalled that relentless self-education eventually carried him to a job at a small Massachusetts company that would later become the defense giant Raytheon, where colleagues joked he was so skilled he could build a working vacuum tube out of nothing more than an old sardine can. By the early 1940s, with World War II escalating rapidly across both oceans, Raytheon threw enormous resources into radar technology, which had become absolutely critical for detecting enemy submarines and incoming aircraft before it was too late. At the center of every radar unit sat a device called a magnetron, a specialized vacuum tube responsible for generating the high-powered microwave signals that made radar detection possible in the first place. These tubes were notoriously difficult and slow to manufacture using traditional machining methods, and the military desperately needed far more of them than existing factories could realistically produce. Spencer redesigned the entire manufacturing process for magnetrons so effectively that Raytheon's daily production leapt from a mere 17 units to over 2,600 almost overnight. By the war's end, the company was responsible for producing roughly 80% of all magnetron tubes used in American and British radar systems combined. Technology that helped Allied bombers spot enemy submarine periscopes from thousands of feet in the air. Then, one day in 1945, Spencer was standing directly in front of an active magnetron during a routine test, with a chocolate bar tucked casually into his coat pocket. Partway through the experiment, he reached into his pocket and discovered the candy had completely melted, turning into a warm, gooey mess, despite the room itself being perfectly cool. Most engineers in his position might have simply shrugged it off as an odd malfunction and moved on with their day. Spencer's curiosity took over instead, and he immediately wanted to understand exactly what had just happened to his snack. He grabbed a bag of popcorn kernels from somewhere in the lab and held them near the active magnetron to see what would happen next. Within seconds, the kernels began popping loudly and scattering across the laboratory floor, confirming that whatever energy the magnetron produced was genuinely capable of cooking food from the inside out, not just warming it on the surface. Eager to push the experiment even further the very next day, Spencer then held a raw egg close to the magnetron's opening, curious whether the effect would work on something with far more moisture trapped inside it. According to several accounts passed down from his own colleagues, a curious coworker leaned in for a closer look at exactly the wrong moment, eager to see the result for himself. The egg promptly exploded from the sudden buildup of internal steam pressure, splattering directly across the man's face and proving rather messily that this new form of energy could cook food remarkably fast from the inside out, long before the exterior ever showed any visible sign of heat at all. If you're enjoying stories like this, hit subscribe now. This channel digs up hidden histories exactly like this one every single week, recognizing that he'd stumbled onto something genuinely significant, far bigger than a simple lab curiosity. Spencer worked closely with Raytheon's engineering team to build a functional prototype, wrapping the magnetron inside a sealed metal box designed to contain and direct the microwave energy safely toward whatever food sat inside, eventually filing a formal patent for a microwave cooking process on October 8, 1945. Just months after the original chocolate bar had melted, Raytheon compensated him for the rights to his own invention with a payment of exactly $2, standard practice for company engineers assigning patent rights at the time, though the business clearly recognized his overall value well beyond that single payment, promoting him to vice president not long afterward, a position he went on to hold for the remainder of his career at the company. By the time he passed away in 1970, Spencer held more than 150 separate patents to his name, spanning radar technology, missile guidance systems, and microwave cooking alike, an extraordinary output for a man who never finished elementary school and had no formal engineering degree of any kind. In 1947, Raytheon introduced the very first commercial microwave oven to the public, marketed under the name radarange, a direct nod to the radar technology that had accidentally produced it in the first place. It bore almost no resemblance to the compact countertop appliance sitting in kitchens today. Standing nearly 5.5 feet tall and weighing somewhere between 700 and 800 pounds, it required constant water cooling to function safely, and its magnetron tube alone needed nearly 20 minutes just to warm up before any actual cooking could begin. The price tag could run as high as $3,000, an enormous sum for the late 1940s, equivalent to well over $40,000 in today's money. Understandably, ordinary households had absolutely no use for a refrigerator-sized cooking appliance that cost as much as a small house down payment. So Raytheon instead marketed the radarange toward restaurants, railway dining cars, and large ocean liners, anywhere a commercial kitchen needed to cook food at genuinely remarkable speed. According to Spencer's own grandson, those early units, despite their intimidating size, were roughly 10 times more powerful than the microwaves sold today, capable of fully cooking a raw potato in under 30 seconds flat. Cost wasn't the only obstacle standing between the radarange and the average American kitchen either. Many consumers throughout the 1950s and 1960s remained genuinely wary of an appliance that cooked food using invisible radiation, especially in an era already anxious about nuclear fallout and atomic testing dominating the evening news. Early manufacturers had to invest heavily in reassuring the public that a properly sealed microwave posed no meaningful radiation risk to anyone standing nearby. A battle for public trust that took nearly as long to win as the engineering itself. For roughly the next 2.5 decades, the microwave oven remained almost entirely a commercial curiosity, far too large, expensive, and genuinely intimidating for the average American family to seriously consider bringing into their own kitchen. Engineers spent those years steadily shrinking the magnetron technology down to a manageable size and searching for ways to cut manufacturing costs without sacrificing the cooking performance that made the appliance worthwhile in the first place. The real breakthrough for ordinary households finally arrived in 1967 when Amana, a smaller appliance company Raytheon had recently acquired specifically to push into the consumer market, released a genuinely compact countertop model priced at $495, still expensive by the standards of the day, roughly equivalent to a few $1,000s today, but finally within reach of an ambitious middle-class family saving up for it. Sales climbed steadily through the following decade as prices continued falling and public trust in the technology slowly grew. And by the mid-1970s, millions of microwave ovens were selling every single year across the United States, transforming what had once been bulky, unreliable restaurant equipment into an absolutely standard fixture of everyday domestic life within a single generation. Today, the microwave sits in an overwhelming majority of American households and in a large share of kitchens worldwide, so thoroughly normalized that almost nobody pauses to consider the sheer strangeness of using invisible, radar-adjacent radiation to heat their lunch in 90 seconds flat. Interestingly, Spencer's chocolate bar wasn't entirely the first hint that radio waves could cook food. Back at the 1933 World's Fair in Chicago, Westinghouse had briefly demonstrated cooking a steak and potatoes between two metal plates using a powerful shortwave radio transmitter, though the idea never went anywhere beyond that single novelty demonstration. It took Spencer's accidental, deeply personal encounter and his sheer refusal to just shrug it off as a minor annoyance to actually turn that scattered possibility into a working, patentable, mass-produced technology. It's easy to forget, reheating a mug of coffee in under a minute, that the entire underlying technology traces back to wartime submarine hunting equipment, refined by a man who taught himself electrical engineering out of library books because formal schooling simply wasn't an option available to him as a child. So the next time you casually reheat a cup of coffee or defrost dinner in a few short minutes, remember exactly where that convenience actually came from. Not a corporate research lab chasing kitchen innovation, and not a chef looking for a faster way to cook. A wartime radar engineer, a chocolate bar melting in the wrong pocket at exactly the right moment, and a curiosity that refused to simply let the mystery go unanswered. If this surprised you, subscribe for more hidden histories behind the everyday objects you never think twice about. Next time, we're uncovering the invention that took 150 years to finally earn people's trust.